delivering you knowledge like FedEx. It's Muchacho back with a tutorial on effects. This is part 2. If you missed part 1, I feel bad for your son, but going back to episode 1 is what needs to be done. Let's get this party started. We're here on the glorious YouTube channel of Audiotent, and in part 2 I'm going to show you some foolproof ways to make your own downers and uppers. And I'm not talking about anything illegal here, just sounds that can be used to signal the beginning of a breakdown or building up to the end of one. First up, here's a quick reminder of the track we were working on last time, complete with the 3 effects we went through in the video. Beauty. Now I'm going to show you how to make a kind of splash sound that's basically a white noise crash with added wobbly bits. Let me explain. First up, we're going to load up Diva. Other synths are available, and you'll see here that we've got a standard monopoly 3 voice template. What I'm going to do first is make sure we've got a triangle wave selected and that only one oscillator turns on. Now to add some white noise. That's already quite an aggressive sound. Let's tame some of it with the filter. If we crank up the resonance, as is the case with all ladder filters, we'll lose a bit of bottom end as well, and that's not necessarily a bad thing with this sound. That's just the way the circuit is designed. Let's dial in this volume envelope. And we'll need to smooth out the filter envelope as well. We'll want a gradual closing of the filter, so we get that initial splash and then a slow fade out of the upper frequencies. Okay, not bad. Let's see what this does with a huge reverb on it. The aim here is to really overdo it. We'll dial the wet control all the way up. The dry control should be around about halfway, I think. Massive. Let's get a bit aggressive with the decay time as well. Monster. We're not stopping there. Here comes the delay train. So you can hear already that that's an enormous sound, and we'll definitely let the listener know that we've reached a very dramatic point in our track. Let's take a listen and we might get an idea for what to do next. So it's not bad, but it gets a bit boring quite quickly. We need more movement in the sound. Here I'm going to add some wobble with the LFO. I'll just experiment with the settings until it sounds good. So that's good. One thing we don't want is the LFO triggering right away, so we can set a delay before that kicks in, thus preserving the initial crash from the white noise. Right, what does that sound like with everything else playing? Obviously I have it too loud, but that helps us hear what's going on. We can blend that in better a little bit later. I like this effect because nearly every crash I hear is the same, and all of the white noise sweeps I hear are just filtered noise with maybe a little bit of reverb. This sound is distinctive. It's much more dramatic thanks to the triangle wave playing that bass note, and the wobble stops it from sounding like it was a cut and paste job. If you've used this sound in one track, it's not hard to tweak it for another. Replace the wave shape, change the filter envelope, and add even more wobble, for example. Okay, so earlier I mentioned using the most useless stock Ableton effect, and as we all know, it's not the vinyl distortion plugin, it's the Resonator. After careful experimentation, I can confirm that the only setting worth using is the Berlin preset. Here you need to make sure that you have the knob on the left hand side set to the key of your track. In this case, it's D. It plays a minor chord. So it actually sounds pretty decent. Let's automate the wet dry amount and see if that enhances our sound in any pleasing way. Not bad. It actually increases the tension in the sound. Shocking, I know, but there is a use for this effect. Okay, so next up I'm going to show you something that's easily the most requested effects related question I receive, and it's also the easiest too. So the question is, how do you make your own risers that don't sound cheesy? Well, cheesy is all in the ear of the beholder, but the technique I use is very simple. I'm going to start with a sound, as any sound will work. Here I've gone for the Reality Pluck from the Division Deluxe preset pack, partly because I'm lazy, but also just to show you how easy this is. Aim for a more percussive sound, so shorter and stabby. A snare would work just as well as this. Experiment and see what texture tickles your earbuds. So I've turned off the effects. This is what it originally sounded like. Not too much difference, but we're going to be using our own effects anyway. It's worth noting that this pluck sound is a couple of reverse saw waves combined with a pulse. All three are then going through a low pass filter with a slightly delayed envelope. It's not too complicated and easy enough to make your own similar sound. Anyway, let's add in a single note. And now we're going to enable our rather large reverb. When it gets interesting is, as you can see here, I've added some automation triggering the freeze function. As you will know from my previous video on reverb, this freezes the sound of the reverb at the moment it's enabled, thus allowing the reverb to go on forever. Glorious. So what we'll want to do with this sound is now render it to audio. We'll do this by freezing the track, which will then allow us to turn the whole thing into a recorded WAV file. So here it is, and this is what it sounds like. Ah yes, the classic riser. How was this done? Well, if you come down here in the clips envelope section, you can see I automated the transpose control. Here I've automated it to rise by 2 octaves. Now, here's the important bit, and this really matters. You need to be choosing the best time stretching algorithm. Here I've used the Complex Pro warp mode, and it sounds good. Listen to what it sounds like if I switch it to beats. You hear that awful stepping? Yeah, you don't want that. Complex Pro, much better. So that sounds pretty good and completely unique to this track. You won't find that sound anywhere else. So earlier I mentioned using a percussive sound. Let's see what happens if I repeat the same process with a standard 909 snare drum. Okay, so exactly the same process. Lots of reverb, freeze the track, then render it to audio by flattening it. Now let's bring the sound forward a bit and add in the all-important pitch automation. Let's go again for 2 octaves. I don't know about you, but I think that sounds even better. So there you have it, another effect that is 100% unique to this track. Okay, that's it for this time. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and let me know if I missed anything out. Come on, boy. Come on, boy. Who's a good boy? Who's a good boy? Who's a good boy? Hello, good boy. Oh, you're such a good boy. You're such a good boy. Yes, you are. You're such a